that river I've been running, hey, ever since. It's been a long, long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh, yes it will.
What a wonderful group. Welcome to I Sing for Change. It's the story of the core of Mahatma Gandhi's legacy as told by Gowri Ramnarayan. More than a century later, at a time when the core values seem somewhat quaint, it seems useful to remember them. Remember Gandhi's experiments with truth, simplicity, compassion, and love. He believed in taking personal responsibility for his actions, including his failings, paying a personal price, in placing community over self. Kalapriya's mission is to bring to the stage art that is relevant for our place and our time in Chicago in the 21st century. In thinking about Gandhi's legacy, it seemed fitting to tell his story through the voices of the youth who see no boundaries, and through an institution, Chicago Children's Choir, that was started right here in Hyde Park by a Unitarian minister who placed his faith in breaking down the barriers of race discrimination, in the diversity of the youth of Chicago, and in the power of music. Gowri Ramnarayan, our narrator, is the granddaughter of journalist Kalki Krishnamurthy and the grandniece of singer M.S. Subbulakshmi, two of a whole generation of Indian leaders who defined India's freedom movement and dedicated themselves to being in Gandhi's army, in spirit and in action. Schooled by them, Gowri has added her own passion for storytelling through a life of prolific journalism and as a playwright. Kalapriya is very fortunate to have her as an advisor, a collaborator, and in bringing many of her plays to Chicago. Josphine needs no introduction. My husband and I had a son at the choir in the 80s when it was 1/10 the size of it is today. Under Josephine's leadership, it is now 5,200 strong in every zip code and in 93 schools. We now have grandchildren in the choir, and we see the power of Josephine's leadership. And along with Judy, Hanson, her associate, they are able to teach the children and to have a leadership of musicians and staff in building an institution of excellence and producing global leaders. Through this production, we wanted to introduce these children to Gandhi and the values that continue to be relevant in today's technological and commercially driven society. It has been a personal joy for me to see Josephine, Judy, and Gowri and the musicians, Mitchell Owen, and all the staff of the CCC and Kalapriya work together to bring you today's production. Enjoy.
Today we remember a man who said, "My life is my message." A life message that made Albert Einstein exclaim, "Generations to come will scarce believe that such a one as this, ever in flesh and blood, walked upon the earth." Many others too saw Mahatma Gandhi's life as a miracle of how a philosophic concept could become a practical way of life in every aspect of life, from the political to the spiritual. That concept, as we all know, is non-violence, ahimsa. Did not Gandhi show how the whole of India, with all its differences of language, caste, and religion, could unite against foreign oppression, achieve freedom from the British rule through peaceful, non-violent protest alone? How did Gandhi mastermind this revolution? Why? By discovering a basic truth. We must be the change we wish to see. It is 71 years since Mahatma Gandhi was assassinated. For daring to be that change, for daring to bring about that change. Gandhi said, "In times to come, people will not judge us by the creed we profess, the labels we wear, the slogans we shout, but by our work, industry, our sacrifice, in short, our character." Gandhi showed by living example that we must develop our character if we wish to bring about that change that we want to see. Gandhi's revolution, we all know, inspired the whole world. This year, on the 150th anniversary of Gandhi's birth, we sing for change to celebrate his legacy. And we ask, what was Gandhi's legacy? Look at the earthly possessions that Gandhi left behind. A few pieces of very rough homespun cloth that he wore, a pair of sandals, spectacles, a watch, a wooden bowl for food, a carving of 3 monkeys which a Japanese friend gifted him, signifying, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. In India, we know that men adopt Spartan austerity in order to find spiritual awakening for themselves. But for Gandhi, austerity was a social need, a community goal. Believing that the best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others, how could he serve the poor if he himself lived a life of luxury, ease, comfort, and opulence? He had to feel what they felt, undergo the pain they experienced, endure their privations. So, step 1, he decided that he would wear only what the poorest of the poor wore, a loincloth. He decided to eat only what the poorest of the poor could barely afford. And when he fasted, which he did time and again, he identified with the starving. Even as a child, Gandhi was deeply impressed by a song in his mother tongue, Gujarati. And the song says, "Only those who know the pain of others and help them unselfishly can be called devout. They respect the entire world. They disparage none. They are pure in thought and word and deed. They are free from conceit. The year is 1893. The young man, 24 years old, from a well-to-do business family in India, a barrister at law with a degree in London, arrives in South Africa to work on a case for an Indian businessman settled there. And there he encounters apartheid for the very first time as he is unceremoniously thrown out of his compartment in the train. It is a first-class compartment. No, men of color were not permitted to travel first class, even if they had an authorized first-class ticket, which Gandhi had. That experience transformed Mohandas Gandhi, an ordinary lawyer, into Mahatma Gandhi, an extraordinary leader. The more he experienced the humiliations of apartheid, the more he determined to fight it, to help the Indian immigrants in South Africa to a better life. But how could helpless Indian immigrants in South Africa, most of them indentured laborers, practically enslaved by their white masters, how could they fight against a government armed with political and military might? Gandhi found a way, powerful, yet so simple. Non-violence, ahimsa, exerted with the force of truth, satyagraha. On 9/11/1906, Gandhi launched a peaceful, non-violent satyagraha movement in South Africa. He guided his people to engage in civil disobedience, disobey the government's unjust laws, he told them. But no physical force, only with moral force. Thousands of peaceful protesters were thrown into prison, Gandhi included. Eventually, their satyagraha compelled the government to grant some justice to the Indian community in South Africa. Gandhi returned to India with this phenomenal weapon, satyagraha. Millions of Indians, men and women, Hindu and Muslim, bonded together in civil disobedience, challenging British sovereignty over India by peacefully breaking the law. Their satyagraha forced the British colonizers to quit India after 300 years of occupation. What is satyagraha? No, it's not just a political revolution. Satyagraha is also fighting evil and injustice within each and every one of us. Satyagraha demands the highest levels of sacrifice from each and every one of us. Gandhi realized that the non-violent protest could be effective only when the people who wanted change expelled fear and hatred from their own hearts. He said, if you cannot stop hating the British, don't join Satyagraha. He said unequivocally. Then he made the second and more crucial point. He asked, How can we protest against injustice in a foreign oppressor if we ourselves are guilty of oppressing the less entitled sections of our own community? If Indians perpetuate the caste system, if they brand certain communities as low caste and outcasts and untouchables, if Hindus and Muslims and Christians cannot see themselves as brothers, how can they be free even if the British left India? Nelson Mandela summed up the essence of Satyagraha so brilliantly when he said, Gandhi rightly believed in the efficacy of pitting soul force against brute force, and in effect, converting the oppressor too to the right and moral point. He added, in a world driven by violence and strife, Gandhi's message of peace and non-violence holds the key to human survival in the 21st century.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. Gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. Gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land, marching up to freedom land, marching up to freedom land, marching up to freedom land.
Imagine a scrawny man in a loincloth and a shawl of very rough homespun cotton, staff in hand, walking 240 miles for 24 days from his inland home in Western India to the Arabian Sea. and this in the broiling heat and choking dust of the Indian summer. Huge crowds gather along the way. Hundreds of men and women join him along the way. This was the People's Direct Action Campaign, launched by Gandhi against the British government's monopoly over the manufacture and sale of their salt in their land, not without opposition. Newsreels captured the people marching on like unstoppable tidal waves, though many sank to the ground as they were beaten mercilessly by the British soldiers, until the soldiers themselves were so exhausted that they could hit no more. Dr. Martin Luther King invests Gandhi's words to his people with the biblical resonance of Moses, taking his people with the Pharaoh's legions chasing them. I quote, he said to his people, if you are hit, don't hit back. If they shoot you, don't shoot back. If they curse you, don't curse back. Some of us might have to die before we get there. Some of us may be thrown into jail before we get there. But let us just keep moving. Only one foreign journalist braved the sweltering heat to witness this scene, an American, Webb Miller. His historic report was published in 1,000 newspapers across the world and won the world's sympathy to India's cause. And I quote, in 18 years of reporting in 22 countries, during which I have witnessed innumerable civil disturbances, riots, rebellions, I have never witnessed such harrowing scenes. It was astonishing and baffling to the Western mind, accustomed to meet violence with violence, to expect a blow to be returned. My reaction was one of revulsion, akin to the emotion one feels when a dumb animal is beaten. The marchers who don't drop dead along the way make it to the sea. Gleefully, they make salt by evaporation. Their leader holds up a fistful of salt and says, with this I am shaking the foundations of the British Empire. To Gandhi, the greatest victory of the salt satyagraha was that not a single act of violence marred the campaign. It also spelled unity for the multitude, because salt, an essential commodity used by everyone, broke down castes, differences of faith, religion, and also the differences of the rich and the poor. Moreover, it was the easiest thing to make. Anybody could make salt. Finally, as the symbol of trust and loyalty, salt fired the imagination of every Indian to identify himself or herself with a national cause. The government had disregarded this march as some kind of a joke, but was now forced to take action and throw over 60,000 people into prison. The salt satyagraha also showed us how Gandhi put his trust in the community. He knew that when a society is united, it has transformative power. But he issued this warning to the people. While it is quite proper for you to insist upon your rights and your privileges, it is imperative that you should also recognize the obligations that go with every right. To Indian politicians, once India was free, his message was equally clear. Political power is not the end, but the means of enabling people to lead a better life, to better their condition of life. Only a nation that runs its affairs without much state interference in people's freedom is truly democratic. How much we need this message today. The two songs that follow show how community singing inspires community bonding across class, color, race, religion divides, and fires us to be the change we want to see. The first song you will know. The second is Gandhi's daily prayer addressed to God. You are Ishwar to Hindus. You are Allah to Muslims. Lord, give each and every one of us wisdom.
can't just live in again and again. So we stand here joined in harmony. We'll be the ones to hold your hand. 'Cause we are one family. We will still soldier on. 'Cause we are one community. There's still yet a new
On August 15, 1947, when India became free, Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, Gandhi's dearest follower, announced, "At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom. It is fitting that at this solemn moment, we take the pledge of dedication to the service of India and her people, and to the still larger cause of humanity." Gandhi heard this wonderful speech from a poor Muslim's dilapidated house in Calcutta city. The city was being ravaged by bloody riots. Awakening, dedication, service, humanity. What he saw was the tearing apart of his motherland into two nations, India and Pakistan, a partition, unleashing monstrous atrocities on both sides of the border. Gandhi responded by going straight to the blood-drenched regions, trying to quench the flames of Hindu-Muslim hatred by staying with the poorest in the most threatened areas. He personally dressed wounds, cared for the afflicted, consoled the bereaved, even as he tried to convince Hindus and Muslims to stop slaughtering each other. He begged Hindus to contribute to a Muslim relief fund, a dangerous thing to do, and Muslims to swear to protect the Hindus in their neighborhood, even more dangerous thing to do. He undertook a fast to shame the bigots and to awaken the conscience of his country. In the 5 months remaining in his life, Gandhi was to witness more eruptions of unparalleled brutality in the motherland where he believed non-violence had come to stay. He saw the force of truth yielding to the compromises of real politics. He was shocked by the new Indian leaders in free India, indulging in greed, corruption, and hatred. His once staunch followers refused to listen to his counsel. They had no use for this man anymore, except perhaps as a mascot. Had his mission failed, he had to remind himself that in the midst of death, life persists. In the midst of untruth, truth persists. In the midst of darkness, light persists. It was only prayer that could sustain him in the dark, in those bleak days, needing to find the strength to bear this angst. He wanted to hear the voice of Meera, a 15th century poet of India, a woman poet. He requested M.S. Subbulakshmi, India's iconic musician and a devoted Gandhian, to record the song for him. The song reached him on his last birthday, 2nd October 1947, and that was the song which was played on All India Radio with the announcement of Mahatma Gandhi's assassination. It is easy to say just why Gandhi sought this particular prayer in his hour of darkness. For Meera asks God not for wealth or power or any kind of comfort. She asks for freedom from fear, saying, "You are the refuge of the destitute, the afflicted, the oppressed. Lord, destroy our fear." What can be more meaningful today than a prayer like this to console us?
Hari tumharo janaki bheer. Hari tumharo janaki भीर. द्रौपदी की लाज राखी तुम बढ़ायो चीर. हरि तुम हरो जनकी भीर.
भकट कारण रूप नरहरि दर्योप शरीर भकट कारण रूप नरहरि दर्योप शरीर हरिण कश्यप मार लीन हो हरिण कश्यप मार लीन हो दर्यो नागिन दीर हरि तुम हरो जनकी भीर बूढ़ते गजराज राख्यो कियो बाहर नीर बूढ़ते गजराज राख्यो कियो बाहर नीर दास मीरा लाल गिरधर दास मीरा लाल गिरधर दास मीरा दास मीरा दास मीरा लाल गिरधर दास मीरा लाल गिरधर दास मीरा लाल गिरधर दुख जहाँ तहाँ पीर हरि 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 तुम हरो जनकी भीर
The hymns of 5 faiths were chanted at Gandhi's prayers every day, making his congregation inclusive, universal. In the prayers of every faith, Gandhi saw the same God. The image of Christ on the cross moved him very deeply, a man who gave up his life for other men. Gandhi found comfort in Christian hymns, particularly in African American spirituals. He found the ideals of sacrifice, he said, in Hussein, a holy martyr in Islam, who was slaughtered with his entire clan as he fought injustice and oppression. Of course, the Buddha was the personification of nonviolence from his own country. And Gandhi's Ram, about whom we sang earlier, was not a Hindu god in Hindu mythology. To Gandhi, Ram spelled the ultimate spiritual power, transcending religion, uniting humanity, mitigating pain, inspiring faith in compassion. The last picture of Gandhi we have is of a frail, old, lonely, defeated, desolate man walking to his prayers at the sunset hour, 30th January 1948. A gunshot. He falls. A soft cry. Hey Ram. Gandhi's dear associate Rajaji spoke from the heart. I do not grieve for him. He was walking fast. He was walking fast to join and lead a prayer. How many of you would not like to die when you are running to join a prayer? We turn to Dr. Martin Luther King to relive that moment for us. Commenting on the irony of Gandhi being shot by a fellow Hindu for favoring Muslims, King says, "Here was a man of non-violence falling at the hands of a man of violence. Here was a man of love falling at the hands of a man of hate. This seems a way of history."
Lead, kindly light, amid the encompassing gloom. Lead thou me on. The night is dark, and I am far from home. Lead thou me on. Take thou my feet. I do not ask to see the distant scene. One step enough for me.
He was called Mahatma, great soul, but Gandhi was as human as they come. On her first visit to Gandhi in London, a young woman poet, an Indian poet called Sarojini Naidu, finds him eating mashed vegetables from a prison bowl. "Share my lunch," says Gandhi. "Oh my God, no, this is a real mess," she shudders. Her irreverence delights Gandhi. He calls her Bulbul, songbird, and she calls him Mickey Mouse, the chocolate Mickey Mouse of India. But it is to Sarojini Naidu that we owe this moving description of Gandhi, and I quote, "Like Gautama Buddha, he was Lord of infinite compassion. He exemplified in his daily life Christ's sermon on the Mount of Olives. Both by precept and practice, he realized the Prophet Muhammad's beautiful message of democratic brotherhood and the equality of all mankind. But while this man of God inspired us with awe and veneration, he endeared himself to us and evoked our warmest love by the very faults and follies which he shared with our frail humanity. I love to remember him as a playmate of little children, as a giver of solace to the sorrowful, to the afflicted, and to the fallen." End quote. And we wonder, what would Gandhi have done in our age when technology brings the globe closer together than ever before, but fear builds walls higher than ever before, and distance grows between people merely because they are different from each other by race, religion, culture, language, and growing economic disparities? Would he have found a way to build bridges with nonviolence? Did he not say, and I quote, "Nonviolence means an ocean of compassion. No, it does not mean abjectness or timidity or fleeing in fear. On the contrary, it is firmness of mind and courage, a resolute spirit." And did he also not say, "History is replete with men who, dying with courage and compassion, converted the hearts of their opponents"? Most importantly, did he not warn us that non-violence is not merely loving those who love us? Non-violence is really loving those who hate us. Compassion was Gandhi's unfailing moral code, and he shared it in words as simple as they are trenchant. Recall the face of the poorest and the weakest man that you have ever seen, and ask yourself if the step you contemplate is going to be of any use to him, and then all your doubts will melt away. Like Dr. King, Gandhi too had a dream. He spoke of it on 14th January 1948. "When I was young, I had the dream that if Hindus and Muslims and Sikhs and Parsis and Christians could live in amity in the whole of India, they would all have a very happy life. If that dream could be realized even now when I am an old man on the verge of death, my heart would dance and little children would frolic in joy. Gandhi didn't know it, but when he said this, he was really on the verge of death. But such dreams don't die. The death of one dreamer cannot erase them. They appear again and again in other dreamers who come after them. And who knows, one day we may all wake to find the dream real. True, the world right now can seem to be more nightmare than dream, and negative thoughts do flood our hearts. But we also find men and women all the time, and in our times, little children, who are striving to change the world, working for peace, harmony, and the world's well-being. I ask you today to dream with Mahatma Gandhi, who announced, even as he saw his dreams shatter into shards, and I quote, "I remain an optimist, not that I can give any evidence that right is going to prosper, but because of my unflinching faith that right will prosper in the end." With faith, we too shall find peace, believe in love, we shall overcome despair. Someday, soon.
endless cycles of rebirth.
Peace to the gods, within and without. Peace to the stormy oceans of doubt.
Peace to the waters. Peace to the trees. Peace to my heart. I'm down on my knees.
I'm praying, peace to me,
Peace to you. Peace to the world. What else can we do?
How absolutely wonderful that today we've been listening to these inspiring youngsters as together we celebrate the legacy of a man of peace. For it is the young, as we all know, who must transform the world and create a better future. A future of Mahatma Gandhi's visions and Dr. Martin Luther King's dreams, where men and women bond as equals, where all religions are respected, where nations foster friendship, a future for all living creatures in a green and clean and safe planet. Utopia? Not really. Didn't Gandhi tell us how to bring about this change just by remembering the earth provides enough to satisfy everyone's need, but not everyone's greed? We end by bringing the old and the new together, the East and the West, in a benediction written in an ancient classical language of India, Sanskrit. And it was specially composed for and sung by M.S. Subbulakshmi at the United Nations General Assembly in 1966. Yes, this was the same singer that the Mahatma wanted to hear in his last days. And I translate: win every heart with friendship. Look upon others as yourself. Renounce war. Forsake unhealthy competition. Give up aggression and wrongful domination. Mother Earth yields all that we need. God our Father is ever compassionate. O people of the world, be restrained, be charitable, be compassionate. May all humankind prosper and attain spiritual upliftment. Juxtaposed to this wonderful hymn is a lyric by the Beatle John Lennon, a man who sang of love and was killed by a man of hate. Let us end this evening by tuning ourselves to songs of dreams and visions, to the music of truth and compassion.